Jack, back to the studio.
Yeah, great to be back in the studio again. Nice comfy chairs. Yeah, good to see you. You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, good.
Let's go through the results after the FA Cup matches. We have the Premier League. Bradford, Man City, 2-2 draw. Chelsea, Bournemouth, 2-2 draw. West Ham, Fulham, 3-2. Nottingham Forest, Liverpool, 1-1 draw. And Everton, Aston Villa, away win for Aston Villa. Back to the dugout for David Moyes. Leicester, Crystal Palace, 0-2. Your team, Newcastle, 3-0 against Wolves. And big win for Arsenal against Tottenham, 2-1. So, where shall we start?
Yeah, some interesting results. I want to start with Newcastle because it's going well, isn't it? It's going so well at the moment. And I'm just so happy. Nine wins in a row in all competitions, 6 wins in a row in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Isak scoring every game, 8 games in a row. Isak scored. He's not far off the record of 11, Jamie Vardy's score, when he scored 11 in a row for Leicester. So, I don't know, everything's just going so good as a Newcastle fan at the moment.
So, Champions League for next year.
I don't want to say too soon, but obviously in my predictions at the start of the season, I did say 4th. And I remember you were laughing, thinking, 4th? I'm not sure about 4th. And I wasn't sure. I was saying I was being hopeful. And at the moment, it's looking quite realistic. So 4th at the moment.
But it's still early because we are halfway through the season, 21st matches.
Yeah, it's still early days. Yes. But at the moment, when I watched the Wolves game in the midweek, and it was all the players looked like they were on, in so much confidence. They were zipping it around, they were doing little tricks, and that was early on, and they were really passing it with a lot of pace. They were like, sort of smashing it into each other's feet, and they were controlling it. They were taking it past the opponent, and it wasn't an ideal game for Wolves to play against Newcastle, in a night game at St James's Park. It was a difficult challenge for them, difficult task. And they've had a few problems themselves with their captain refusing to play and wanting to leave, which doesn't help. Their former captain, because he lost the captaincy about a month ago. But Newcastle just sort of blew them away. I mean, they didn't seem to break much of a sweat, but what they were doing, they didn't seem to do anything wrong. And I don't know. We just need to keep hold of that striker, keep him for the rest of the season. I'm sure he'll stay and get that Champions League position, and then try and push on again. But I think the best thing to happen for Newcastle in the last 12 months was Man United winning the FA Cup, because it meant that they only had to focus on the league and the domestic cups and not have to play in the Conference League as it would have been for Newcastle. So that was a blessing in disguise. At the time, I was disappointed because I wanted to see Newcastle in Europe, but they probably wouldn't have the squad for depth for that like Chelsea do. They have the depth, but Newcastle don't. So it's just been great. Focus on the league. We're also doing well in the cup competitions, but focus on the league and try and get that maybe 5th spot might be enough this season for Champions League. So I'm hopeful, fingers crossed.
Well, it depends on the coefficient.
At the moment, 5th is okay with the coefficient. Yeah? If it stays the same or improves, then it should be okay. But we'll see. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, but 4th place is you have the guarantee.
4th is guaranteed anyways, regardless of coefficiency. Yes. Yeah, so... Okay. What have you made? Have you been surprised by how well Newcastle have just suddenly started playing? Consistently.
Now it looks like they have the winning mentality and the psychology. If you keep winning matches, everything is rosy. And then when you have a couple of setbacks, you see the true character of the players. So. Let's wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy for now, but I know it can change so quickly, and a couple of bad defeats and, confidence goes down, this sort of thing. So, and hopefully none of the players the key players get unsettled too much, because there's obviously a little bit of talk around some of the players. The goalkeeper's being linked away as well. So,
or you don't have long-term injuries.
Injuries, because that was a massive problem last season for Newcastle. So many injuries really derailed the season. That's why they struggled, to be honest. So,
okay. What about the Arsenal game against Tottenham?
Yeah, I mean, Spurs again.
Well,
Spurs were terrible.
After they lost against Man United in the FA Cup.
I mean, that was a great game.
Penalty shootout.
Yeah.
So you expect the psychology to go down, and
and losing to Newcastle in the cup as well. The League Cup. So they had a few disappointing home results in the cups, and They've not really got a striker, have they? That's their problem. They've not got a striker. They've not got an Isak who can put the ball in the net.
They are creating a lot of chances.
A lot of chances. And they've missed some really big chances. And Spurs, they were lucky to go 1-0 up because it was completely against the run of play, I thought. Arsenal were, had most of the possession. They were carving out chances. But Arsenal don't need to almost score from open play because they just keep scoring from corners all the time. They're the kings of the corners. So, again, they did it again. But Spurs are they're in a bad moment again. And Ange Postecoglou is under a lot of pressure, isn't he, at the moment, the manager? He just looks sort of like he's always looked a bit miserable, but he just looks now like he's almost fed up with it all, I think. He just can't find any solutions.
They went to play against Dartmouth in the FA Cup, a non-league team, and I watched the match, and he had to bring on the big guns to go through an extra time. So it's.
I mean, there was lots of jokes on social media, all sorts of stuff about that. I mean, how they had to go to extra time, and they're lucky it wasn't, like in the olden days when you have a replay, they would have had to play another game. So yeah, I like the way they play, but now they're not even playing that well. The thing was they were losing, but really exciting. Now they don't seem to be even joining together. They're all over the place.
But that's another team that they don't have an out-and-out striker.
Again,
forward. Yes,
another issue.
I think it's a modern football. It's not just these two teams.
I think we need to sort of go back to just having a central striker. I don't see why there's this reluctance to have one, or maybe the style doesn't suit it. Maybe they just change
modern football. Do you see any Ibrahimovic? Any Ronaldo?
No, there's not any strikers. And you think maybe what the kids are wearing on the back of the shirts, they're not wearing really any strikers anymore. They're just the sort of wingers or left-hand side, or you know what I mean? They're sort of playmakers now. They have there's not a number 9 like a Shearer or someone like that, who just sticks up front, just puts the ball in the net.
And first match back for David Moyes for Everton, and they are really struggling.
Yeah, he's going to have to. I mean, he's experienced and he can keep them up. He's good enough, but he's going to have a lot of hard work to do because they just can't score. Everton, they don't ship too many goals, to be honest. And the draws that they've had, they had those impressive draws, didn't they? I remember that one at Arsenal. They got a 0-0 draw. But again, it's a 0 in their column.
Yes.
And they don't seem to convert any chances. They don't seem to get anybody in the box. They've got Calvert-Lewin, but he was on the bench. His contract is up at the end of the season, so maybe his head's not in it. He's thinking about talking to clubs, which he's allowed to in January. But it just doesn't seem like there's a way to goal for them. They need to get somebody in, somebody who's going to. I don't know who they can get in, whether PSR even allows that, but they need to find somebody with a bit of spark up front, at least, or a bit of confidence to stick it in the net. Because they don't even create chances, but when they do get those chances, they've not got the players to convert. And you just need somebody. You don't need an unbelievable striker. You just need somebody to put it in the net.
They need to start picking up points, Jack.
At least at home, at least. Make it
exactly.
Fortress.
This is what I was going to say. I mean, home matches, they need to get the points because it's very easy to really struggle and fighting for survival. Okay, even though Southampton looks like they're.
I think for sure they're down. I mean, they're like a championship team in the Premier League, yes. Quite frankly. I think with Everton, I was surprised when they sacked their manager, Dyche, because I know he's under pressure and I know, people were saying, oh, we want him out, some of the Everton fans, so they just had enough of him. To sack him just a couple of hours before their cup game last week was a really silly timing. I don't understand the thought process at all.
But nowadays,
maybe there's no thought process.
Exactly.
In terms of...
some of the decisions, they seem that they don't have any logic.
No.
And I don't know, the board of, the clubs are really under a lot of pressure. There are financial reasons. There are pressure from the supporters, and they make rash decisions. But I don't know. Maybe we don't know what went on behind the scenes.
But I do think they've had an upgrade. I do think David Moyes, he's still not that old for a manager. He's still got many years left, and he knows Everton well. And it's almost like a legacy appointment. You're bringing him back in because, you know, he knows the club. He knows how to keep teams up. And he's been a successful manager. And he could be the man to take them into the new stadium. There's quite a nice thing about that, synergy about that.
Well, we'll see what's going to happen. So, Man City, again, a draw.
Yeah, they threw that away, didn't they? They were 2-0 up with 8 minutes to go. And we thought maybe they've done it
from everywhere. I mean, even now there's a talk that because of his domestic issues, Guardiola was not. His head is not there. I don't know what's going on. This year, this type of form we're never used to. I mean, it's been. I don't remember when was the last time Man City were in this type of situation.
Yeah, when Man City would. In any season before this year, when they're 2-0 up away from home with a few minutes left, when do you ever think that it's not going to be a win for Man City? And again, it was defensive errors. It was just not concentrating, not doing their job. You got Kyle Walker. I've been saying about him all season. There's definitely something going on there, and he's thinking about there's links with him with other clubs, and apparently he's said to Pep that he wants out. That's been reported that he wants to move on.
Well, there was some talk about Saudi Arabia. I don't know.
I think him and Pep have their own personal issues that they're dealing with at the moment, and that definitely plays a part, doesn't it? As anybody's work-life balance, if something's going on, it affects your performance.
Yes.
And we've seen that. It's just been a bit of a nightmare for City, by their standards anyway, this season.
And Nottingham Forest, they draw against Liverpool. Marinakis was really happy. There was some,
they kept showing him, didn't they, Angelos Marinakis on the... Yeah, we like that Greek connection, but yeah, he must be so happy with what's going on. I mean, it must be a joy to watch Forest.
I think the British people are really surprised that he's been down in the tunnel quite a few times.
Yeah, he's always got the scarf on, hasn't he, and everything,
and waiting this white T-shirt, extra large.
He's a big guy.
Yeah, and
big character as well.
Well, it's out of character for the English game to see the president of a club waiting for the players to greet them after the match. But this has this Greek mentality. So.
Yeah, and he seems very proud, doesn't he? Of everything. Yeah. Well, you would be, wouldn't you, with what's going on?
And apparently everybody loves him.
Yeah, so it's like a legend of that side of Nottingham. Yeah. So I like it. It's good. They're a proper club. They're historically, they've won things, haven't they? Won the European Cup a couple of times, and they're Brian Clough.
Yeah, but you didn't expect this year to do that well. If you compare what happened with last year, because they were struggling at some point.
Yeah, exactly. But they're serious challengers at the moment for the title and for the top four, for sure. For the top four. I mean, they're looking good for the top four.
For the title, I don't think so.
I don't think they're going to catch Liverpool, but they're looking like second could be. They could seal it if Arsenal keep messing. If Arsenal keep messing about, and I know they won. I know they won against Spurs, but they've been dropping points all over the place, Arsenal, and they've not been consistent. Chelsea have dropped off a little bit. They're getting draws. They drew with Bournemouth, didn't they? Yes. They saved it at the last minute. Obviously, you got Newcastle coming up, but Newcastle aren't going to continue winning every single game. I can't see it. It's going to be a blip. So, yeah, I think Liverpool are too far ahead still. But Forest are right up there, and they're not. I can't see them dropping too many points between now and the end of the season, the way they're playing. And the players they've got, they've got some right gems in there. People didn't realise at the start of the season, and they're just really outperforming all expectations, all of them.
Yes. To be honest. Okay, we mentioned this before, but is a coach's team.
Yeah, he's really got them playing as a unit, hasn't he? Yes. And Chris Wood is that striker that Everton need. He's that striker that other teams we've talked about that they're missing. They need, at the top, and he sort of puts it away. He hardly has any chances, but he puts them away. And
the camaraderie of all the players, they look like they are a strong unit. So we'll see what's going to happen with Nottingham Forest as well. It's really nice as a traditional club from a relatively small town, 500,000 or so people, the population. So it's we always like surprises in leagues.
There's been another change, hasn't there? Managerial change. Another well-known British manager is obviously Graham Potter.
Yes,
going to West Ham. I think he's a good appointment. I think it wasn't really working out with Lopetegui, and things had gone a bit sour there and a bit stale. And yeah, they had a couple of half decent results throughout the season. You know, the first 20 odd games of the season, but I think they just needed to break from that and to break from that agreement. And Potter's come in and because he took his time, didn't he, after he left Chelsea, and he's not taking any jobs. He was linked with England. He obviously didn't get that, or he didn't go.
Probably
for it,
he took his time, Jack, because the compensation package from Chelsea
maybe. I mean, he doesn't need to go back into work because Chelsea paid a fortune for him from Brighton anyway.
Yeah.
It was a crazy deal that was, and they didn't give him any time. But yeah, he's got the potential to. Well, if he's got the money and the backing, I don't know what their situation is financially, but if he can get, he can get a tune out the players that he's got, and if he can be given a bit of funds to bring some players in. I mean, he made some great signings at Brighton. I know that we've talked about them before with their recruitment, but he obviously was a part of that process. If he can bring in the right players to West Ham, then he can, well, for sure, move them away from the relegation zone and then maybe build from there if they give him the time. So he's a solid manager. Let's see. It's a big job for him because he failed at Chelsea, to be honest. I know they didn't give him that much time, but he did fail. He was very successful at Brighton. It's all about restoring that reputation that he's had, and he was obviously very careful about which job he took next. And so let's see how that develops for him at West Ham. But I think if I was a West Ham fan, I'd be happy with that point.
The important thing is what you said in modern football. Give the coaches time.
Easier said than done.
Yeah, I mean, 15 years ago, if we were sitting here saying, okay, we expected half the coaches in the Premier League will lose their job in the middle of the season, everybody would be laughing. The clubs were really patient with the process and the coaches, but now the modern football. And because the pressure, as we mentioned before, they keep changing the coaches. And it's very difficult when you are in the middle of the season to change your coach and then the players to adapt a different methodology. And
it's crazy. See, I think it's almost since there's been more money put into football, it's almost like they can afford just to pay a manager off, and it doesn't really matter, even though it's insane amounts of money, millions. It's like, oh well, we'll just pay him pay him out for his contract. They probably have break clauses as well, but it just seems like they're so disposable, the managers. It's just we'll get another guy in, he'll do it for a bit, and then it's almost like a temporary. The seat's almost not even like they're not even got a chance to sit down on the seat and keep it warm because they'll be kicked out. It is a bit farcical at times. But
I mean, it looks like even the coaches they expected the inevitable is going to happen in a few months' time.
Yeah, some managers don't even bother to move closer to the club, from where they live because they're not thinking, oh, I'm not going to be here that long.
You're thinking about Mourinho when he was staying at the hotel in Manchester.
Mourinho, when he stayed for a bit longer than I was expecting, but yeah, he was in that hotel, wasn't he? He had his own thing in the hotel.
Because his wife didn't want to move to Manchester. So.
I can see why. It's always raining there, isn't it, cloudy?
Yes. And speaking of Manchester, Man United, they really play well against Liverpool, and the FA Cup win, the penalty shootout against Arsenal.
Yeah, with 10 men as well.
Yes, but the biggest change is it looks like the coach, he has the team pumped up for these two matches. And now we expect to see what's going to happen when they don't play that defense structured system, and they have the space to attack. Yeah. So because the next two matches against Southampton and Everton at home, we see whether there will be any consistency from the last 2 weeks, or they will again struggle because they will have to attack and not be that defensively.
Yeah, the onus is on them to take the game to those teams, and they're two struggling teams. And
the coach, even Amorim, admitted that they need to get better in the creative side of things regarding the attack, because they don't create too many chances. That's the thing.
They don't. And again, they've not really got an out-and-out goal scorer. I know they've got Højlund, but he's only a young lad. There's a lot of pressure on him.
Yes, but Højlund, under normal circumstances, would have been the second choice striker, center forward, not to be, it's really unfair on the kid. It's only a kid, and it's really unfair because he doesn't get the ball. He's always fighting with the center halves, be kicked around most of the time, and it must be really frustrating for him.
Yeah, I do feel for him in that sense. I mean, he seems quite isolated up front.
Yes.
But yeah, let's see what the situation is. Two very winnable games for Man United. They're on the back of this momentum. It could be, that boost, that kickstart they could need, to go into February with a bit of confidence and maybe get some players out that don't want to be there, like the likes of Rashford and stuff.
This is the last thing I want to talk about today. What can you predict or any transfers in and out because so far there hasn't been really busy in this transfer window for any of the teams.
Yeah, it's not too many indicators going on, and there's not been many signings, has there? And I don't think, because they've just recently said, the Premier League said that all the clubs passed the PSR rules. They didn't breach any of it for this season. So teams are maybe not under pressure to shift players around, and they're also unwilling to bring a new player in because unless it's economically viable for them. I think there's going to be some deals towards the bottom half of the table because they're going to. I think the teams that are more likely to stay, the ones that are in contention to stay up, like the Wolves, is maybe Ipswich might bring somebody in. I don't know. These sort of teams towards the bottom.
For the
Everton, I think Everton will bring some players in because they've got a new manager. I think West Ham might shift players out and bring some in maybe because they've got a new manager. Newcastle linked with
to strengthen the squad in order for them to stay up.
Give them a bit of a chance, or maybe an area where they think they need, because West Ham are missing like a focal point. Obviously got the Antonio, had that car crash incident, and there's other players who are injured up top. So they've got Füllkrug, also their German striker, who's got injured. So they would probably need a striker. So they'll get somebody in, maybe temporarily. Everton might bring somebody in. I think they have to bring somebody in to give themselves a chance, especially up top, striker.
So
I don't know names though because it's all rumours at the moment. I know Newcastle's goalkeeper. That's the biggest thing at Newcastle, is whether they're going to keep the goalkeeper because he's been linked with Al Shabaab in Saudi Arabia, but the manager doesn't want him to leave. But he's only got 6 months left on his contract. He's 38, I think now. It's getting on a bit, but he's playing fantastically as part of this winning run. And also from Newcastle's point of view, Miguel Almiron, he's been there since the old ownership. He's one of the longest serving players there. He's been good, but he's probably not quite at the level Newcastle are at now in the top four sort of level. So he might be moved back. He might go back to the MLS where he came from. So that's when I know that might happen.
Yes.
So I don't know for Man United. They'll probably get Rashford.
Man United, all we hear about is players going out. Not, Rashford, Garnacho for Napoli now. Casemiro. So
there's a few players might have shifted out, but So I don't think it's going to be very busy though. I don't expect it to be super busy this month at all.
Nothing for Liverpool.
No.
Arsenal
need a striker, but I don't think they're going to spend in January. I don't think he's going to. I think he'll complain about it. Mikel, he likes to complain, Mikel Arteta. He'll complain that he doesn't have the resources.
Yeah, but Arsenal, they were always, financially, they were always a bit on the conservative side.
Yeah,
they don't overspend. They don't... They need a striker, but centre-forward. But the January transfer window is really hard to get a consistent and, top centre forward for the Premier League standards.
So, I know Chelsea have been linked with a few players, but I don't know if they're going to go crazy. They seem to be the only club who spend big all the time and seem to not really care about who they buy. So, but they might have to shift a few players out, Chelsea, because they've got a bigger squad like Ben Chilwell. But they said he's going to go. So
you mentioned PSR. I understand they offloaded some of their properties.
Yeah,
in order to pass the PSR rules. So it's
non-football investments and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a complicated system.
Really
Even accountants don't understand. I mean, I'm an accountant.
Try and crunch those numbers. Good luck with that.
So, okay. Let's come back next week, and we'll have. From next week, we'll have the episodes earlier in the week and discuss a bit more and follow through what's going to happen this weekend and come back with more news about the Premier League.
Thank you, Nicos.